welcome the back, baby. This week, as well as last week, was an insane week, man. We had so many releases. We had Feral, From Left to Suffer, Mother by Veil and Maya, the new Amity Affliction. Currents just came out last week. A new track from Avenged Sevenfold that dropped literally out of nowhere on May 13th. We have I See Stars dropping 2 singles tonight at midnight. Yes, I See Stars. I know it's been a long time since we heard about them. They're going on tour with progressive metalcore band Era and Bad Omens this coming September, later summer tours. New Acacia Strain, they dropped a double. They dropped a full album and an EP, which I've heard is extremely slammy. Not slammy, real slow, riffy, beat, bully down, hardcore. Excited to check that out. Couple singles that we're going to check out as well, but we're going to all around. We have our friend here, Tony Gregory from Space Weather Music on Instagram. Tony, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Oh, man. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm pretty excited right now. This has been an awesome 2 weeks. I mean, the 2 weeks that I've been home has been great. Last week, John and I both touched on it was kind of a tough little rough patch for us, but we got through it. Everything's going good. He just saw Necro Goblin with Dickie Allen.
Yeah,
which
was
oh
amazing.
My gosh, I can't wait to hear about that. But man, nonetheless, this has been such a great week. John, what were you able to all soak in with the little time that we had to all take it all in? I mean, hell, we got probably 8 hours worth of new music out.
Yeah, so we had so many things going on this week. It was crazy. Also, Tony and I both apparently write code in the exact same languages for our jobs. So that's a fun side note. But yeah, I mean, all of it was like, it was hard to keep track of everything because it was such like a busy week. I tried to keep track of everything. Of like Cattle Decapitation was great.
Mother was good. Them too. Damn it.
Yeah, there was so much stuff. So that's the hard thing is like there really was like, yeah, it was hard to keep track of everything.
It was like, I remember we touched on it a couple episodes back where, record labels kind of throw fits about everybody dropping stuff. It's got to be timed. Dude, I don't know what gave, but this month of May has been pretty nice, I must say. So I'm extremely excited. What was before we get with you, Tony, I'd love to know, I don't know if you've checked it out as well. What was your guys' thoughts on Veil and Maya's Mother?
Veil and Maya's Mother was, I thought it was great. All the singles that they were putting out previously were like Synthwave Vegan, like goes so crazy. Godhead, also like pretty insane. But yeah, I mean, the energy's all there and stuff. They do a lot of stuff with synths, I think, like this time around.
Yes.
And I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but I thought they did it pretty tastefully. So
I remember when they first dropped, I think Godhead was the first single, correct? If I'm not mistaken. I remember when I heard that. I remember actually talking about it with John. I was like, man, it's like all these bands are kind of going back to their roots, right? Which is creating a heavy yet very polished sound compared to what they used to have. You know what I mean? So like Amity Affliction's a good example. Veil and Maya, they've always had bangers. They've always been an extremely progressive, djenty. They always got that djent, man. They're definitely one of the front runners for that. But I remember when they dropped Godhead, I was like, God damn, man, this is going back to the old school days, man. Reminded me of Punisher a little bit. You remember that song? Like that whole breakdown, dude. Like, oh man, I think my favorite track, I wanted to make sure I brought it up, was definitely so far was Red Fur, which was one of the singles that they came out with. I loved when that came out. It was so different. It was unlike anything I heard coming from them. And then Tokyo Chainsaw, dude. What the fuck was that, dude? Opening the album with that, man. It was so good.
Yeah, that was a good opener.
I've seen, John, I'd love to hear your opinion on it. I want to bring this up quick. I saw a lot of people, though, kind of giving us some hate. They're like, I kind of expected a lot of this coming from Veil and Maya. I thought that it was kind of they of course kept their sound, but it kind of, to me, was from a whole different side, slightly. Maybe that's because like the producing's better. I'm not really sure, but I really enjoyed that album for what it was. For the first one that I'll talk about. What about you, John? What was your favorite track off
I
that?
liked it. Of course, like Red Fur was pretty decent, and then Synthwave
I love
Vegan
that
was
one.
like excellent, and of course, like the opening track was really, really great. It's hard to pick out because I was like, I listened to it only twice because the new Amity Affliction was on repeat, as was like all of Necrogoblicon stuff. So a part of me is like a little bit distracted by everything that came out, but it really was like a solid, polished album, and I do like synthesizers. So I was like, that's a nice feel. And I think there's always going to be people on the internet who hate anything that's either they hate it if it's different and they hate it if it's predictable. And it's like those are a lot of times what albums are going to be.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean that's such a
yeah,
good point.
because they'll just be like, oh, this sounds like the last album. So then they do something that doesn't sound like the last one. They're like, this
Ah,
direction sucks.
fuck these guys, man. I don't know, man. For me, it was Synthwave Vegan was the one that was like I was like, whoa, this is different. This is different. So
Mhm.
off time, very progressive sound. Speaking of progressive, another one I want to touch on. Go ahead, John. Get the sign ready because we're doing it.
Yeah, we're
We're gonna do
doing
it
it
every week till the album comes out,
every
guys.
week until the album comes out.
We love you. By Avenged
Yes.
Sevenfold. Fold. Tony, I know I talked with you earlier before we got on the live. I would love to hear, especially with how different of music that you write and you play, kind of what you were expecting, what you got, and your whole thought around the entire single. What do you think?
With the new Avenged Sevenfold single.
Yeah,
It was a ride. I mean, they really. It's kind of interesting, I guess. Because like for me, I actually only really like their self-titled album. I like some of their older stuff too, like the album that has Unholy Confessions and stuff. Like it resonates in the sense that like I think I was like learning to play guitar when that came out, and so I was like, oh, drop. This is what drop D is like, and learning riffs like that. But their self-titled to me is just like it's on another level, and
I'm with you.
but this new single that came out, like they changed tempos a lot. Uh, it sounds like they're definitely trying a lot of new things, and so I know a lot of people like they said they didn't like it, and I can see why, but at the same time, I think it's cool that they did it because it's better than like I appreciated it as opposed to like trying to do the same thing over and over again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about you, John? What was your
Yeah,
take on the
I
single?
think I liked it. I liked there was a good variety. Maybe it's because I only listened to it in the car driving on loud highway. I felt like the mixing felt a little bit weird for the first half of it, but that might have just been my car listening experience. I think I did like the variety. I do like the jumping around and the changing there. I think it's interesting to just like see them go through the whole spectrum of music of like it was very unpredictable for a 6 minute song. Like some of their songs that were usually 6 minutes would usually have still kind of a formulaic, like you kind of know what's going to happen in a way, and then you end on like a solo and then like bridge chorus again or something. But it was interesting. I liked it overall though.
Okay, so I was looking forward to expressing my full breakdown of the track. I really was. I was so excited for it. Um, so we love you by Avenged Sevenfold. To me, the first 30. Okay, so this is the best way I can explain it. Clear your mind of everything you know about them, about that band, and then just throw it out the fucking window because they're just totally different now. First off, it's almost like you could tell that they wrote that like high on mushrooms. I mean, it's a trip. Like the first 30 seconds, 20 seconds, it's off time as shit. The mixing sounds like what the fuck, and then the whole time you're like, what the fuck is this? This isn't Avenged Sevenfold. And then it comes into a build up, screams a little bit, then it slows down again, and then dude, we heard Matt Shadow scream for the first time, and God knows how long. Um, I'm not going to touch on the track too much. I enjoyed it a lot. It was actually I like Nobody and We Love You about the same, but on in their own way. I don't know how else to explain it. I don't like one more than the other, but I also don't like them at the same level. There's something about We Love You that I like more than I like Nobody, and there's something about Nobody that I like more than We Love You. And what I think it is to me is that Nobody has that flow that you were talking about. There's that flow, that proper, well, I wouldn't say proper, but the normal way of writing a song. And then you take We Love You, and it's full prog. It is full prog. And then it goes into like death metal, and then you get a screaming Dimebag Daryl Pantera solo, death metal vibe, like in the middle. It was very interesting. And I mean, I didn't have to listen to it 7 times to be like, okay, this is a good fucking song. It took me 2 listens, and I'm like, holy shit, man, this is different, but this is good. And like another thing, Matt Shadow's voice to me sounds so much healthier than it did on the stage. So it gave me a much higher expectation for the ladder on where or that pedestal that I'm gonna put the album at the end of the year, because we have had some great albums, including several that dropped this week. I listened to a little bit of the Amity though. John, I didn't listen to as much as you, so I'm really banking on you here to give us the fans a little update on it.
It was good. I mean, overall, the singles they had been dropping for it were excellent and everything. I need to pull up the track list again just to make sure I have them all, because it was like the singles they dropped were all really great, and they kept talking about how it would be their heaviest album and everything. I think, of course, like Amity is an interesting band because they do have a lot of heavy elements, but they do rely pretty heavily on clean vocals. So it was interesting to starting off the track. You have like 2 singles that were already great: Show Me Your God and It's Hell Down Here. Both excellent. The music video for It's Hell Down Here is amazing because it's weird, interesting to the juxtaposition of the lyrics versus like cool touring videos and like all this like loving the fans and stuff. Fade Away, excellent. Death in the Setting Sun, really great. I See Dead People, of course, we listened to on the show. Very good, very heavy. Like Louis Nux was really great on that. When It Rains, It Pours, I liked it. The Big Sleep was pretty great. Close to Me, also excellent. God Voice, and then Not Without My Ghosts. It was interesting because the 4 singles they did, 2 of them announced the song title as the intro, which was like an interesting move in my opinion. I was like, are they going to do that for all the songs? No, they didn't. But yeah, if you like Amity Affliction, you're going to love it. If you've always like never felt really good about Amity Affliction, or they're not your favorite, your mind will not be changed. You'll like.
I didn't get to sit down, analyze, study it to the extent, because I was just listening to the other stuff. Because like we said, there were so many that came out. I know that Lindsay wanted us to check out Fade Away.
So good.
I haven't heard it. I mean, I might have, but just in passing, I wasn't paying attention. But anyways, so we'll touch a little bit more on everything else that happened this week. Tony, we brought you here. Let's hear it, man. What? So you started with Royal Revise, which was the first band that LJ was with, who was the vocalist for Royal Revise and now Deathbed Youth. Since has taken a hiatus, we had him on here a couple months ago. It was great. It was a great time talking with him. So I would love to hear how you went from, I mean, just writing metalcore riffs, being in a band, writing that style, to what you are now doing right now. How did that all go down?
So yeah, when I was in college, LJ and I, we did that metalcore band Royal Revise, and I had always written like so many different types of riffs. And when I got asked to join that band, I mean, I ended up writing the majority of the leads for those songs. And I mean, those kind of things, they came pretty naturally to me. But metal has always just had a special place in my heart, right? So whenever I quit that band, probably my junior year in college, by that point, I was already writing so many other things anyways, but everything was mostly in the post-hardcore umbrella. So there were definitely still like heavy elements that you would find like in metalcore, but I was also doing other things that involved like clean guitars, and also just like prog elements as well, you know, doing some guitar tapping and really playing with the idea of like two guitars doing two different like lead riffs at the same time. And you can actually hear some of that stuff in Royal Revise's first EP.
I
But
actually, sorry to cut you off. I actually said that to LJ in our interview. I said I really love the progressive guitar work within Royal Revise. I brought that, like I said, that exact thing, just so I wanted to touch on that because I noticed that too.
yeah, I mean, it was just something that I think I've always done because I've always just been into bands like that in high school. But yeah, afterwards, like after like leaving the band, and I was mostly just focusing on school anyways, because it was really hard to be in a band in college at the way we were doing it because I didn't have any money. And I didn't like I was really just trying to like make sure like I was doing good in school. So it was really hard to like balance everything. And so, after college and I have an actual job, where I can make some income, I can actually afford like gear. But yeah, I mean, I just started writing a whole bunch of stuff. And uh, like the elements of like that were part of like my metalcore days where I was writing riffs that had harmonies in them and stuff like that. All that stuff's carried over to my new music as well. It's just like sometimes those guitars are clean guitars, or maybe there's like some different effects on them. But that's still like one of the biggest components of my songwriting. So like metalcore is huge with with the stuff that I'm doing now, especially like a lot of syncopated riffs and stuff too. There's a lot of things where the drums and the guitars are always lining up together, interpreting like a breakdown in so many different ways. But at the same time, it's like, some of that stuff is chill because I don't really scream that much. I mostly sing. So that's kind of how that all came about.
Did you face any challenges? I mean, I know that you said that you took a lot from, metalcore, the riffing, you don't drop tune it to hell. You don't put all these effects on it. You play it in a clean tone. Besides that, was like anything about the switch up in genre like challenging? Because like to me, I mean, this is subjective, of course, but it's almost like a 180-degree, like it's kind of. Do you know what I'm trying to get at? You go from harshes where everything's really heavy, everything's really loud, and then you go to what you're doing now with Space Weather, where it's like real chill, vibey. I don't know. I would call it jazz, but I know it's not. It's more probably funky pop.
I mean, I would consider us just like post-hardcore. I think because the idea is like, yeah, we still are heavy. And in fact, the new music that we have not released yet, I do scream in it. So I kind of go back a little bit and there's definitely, heavier riffs, but I'm just doing it in my style and trying really not to put myself in a label of like what people expect my band to be, or even what I originally expected my band to be. Because whenever Space Weather started, I actually wrote some stuff with somebody that we were going to do like a type of like surf, like indie type of thing. And I wrote a bunch of stuff for that. And then he was like, I don't want to do this. Just kidding. So then I had all the stuff and I was like, well, then I'm just going to do it all on my own. And then, so then I, recorded the drums, the bass, the guitar, and then I sang over it. And the end result was that it was still pretty chill, but also it definitely, got into some heavier parts too. So then we ultimately just gravitated into the post-hardcore world.
Kind of met in the middle a little bit. That's really cool. I always find it really intriguing, impressive, whatever you want to call it. How, I mean, you are one amongst many that do it, and I give mad respect because I think it's so hard to do. Just for me, just to figure out how to set up my mixer to my drums, mic them, tune them up, get the So you did all of that though. You did it on the guitar, you did it on the drums, you did it on the vocals, the bass. Did you run into issues with that, or have you always been so involved with music that it kind of came natural?
I mean, I I know how to songwrite and I know how to play those instruments, but I went somewhere to actually record them. It's like if you ask me to tune a drum set, you're gonna probably have a bad time. But I knew what essentially what I was looking for, and at least back in when we recorded the EP, it was 2018, and I didn't have a band. I didn't have any band members, but I had these songs written, so I went to a studio in Portland and just cranked them out.
Wow, man. How
And it was
much?
the biggest challenge I think was actually finding band members,
Yeah.
because, but it was a lot easier to do it once I recorded the music. Nobody really wanted to do it until the music was recorded, and then I think it was like it became much more of a serious thing, right?
Yeah, that shows a lot about your character, your drive for, a vision that you have, right? Which is something that so little people have anymore. And especially with doing that, flying yourself out to Portland, going to a professional studio. Was any part of you nervous about like taking that leap, spending that money, or did you know in your
Oh
head
yeah,
you've had it all manifested, it's going to be something good and you're going to get something going?
I was terrified, but also at the job I was working at, I was like hesitant to even like send out emails to like different producers, and because that's like once you do it, then it's real. But I remember talking to one of my coworkers, and we was just like, yeah, like if you don't do this, like none of the things that you have in your mind are like ever going to become a reality. And I was like, what's really stopping me? It's like it was a big financial investment, obviously,
Oh
but
yeah.
I was like, I'd rather do this and then not do it and regret not doing it.
Oh yeah, man. With anything in life, it's just sometimes really hard, and just naturally as humans, we don't want to step out of our comfort zone. We're afraid of we're afraid of not being in the safety net of what we already know, which is funny because we all had to step out of our safety net to enjoy something that we love now. You know what I mean? But I just feel like we probably lacked the ability to understand that it was scary at the time. But like now that we're full blown adults, you get an opportunity like that. You took it and ran, which is the best thing you could have done. Because now look at it. You said that you're working on a new album. You said EP coming out. That's fucking awesome. Especially as just where you started, man, by yourself. That's incredible, man. That takes so much
Thank you.
effort and courage to just go out and do that, because you don't know if it's gonna fall on its face.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't, but yeah, I mean, it's something that I believe is worth it. Definitely takes it. It just takes a lot of time, dedication to figure out all the moving pieces that come with a release. We also just live in a completely different world than as far as like releasing music goes and getting the word out than we did 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. I feel like it is still a different game. So
Would you say it's a lot harder now, a lot easier, but a little bit more challenging?
I would say it's harder, but at the same time, there are like also multiple ways to get the word out. I mean, we have things like TikTok and Instagram, which, at least with TikTok, the idea is that it is supposed to be a bit more organic, but at the same time, you also have to push out content almost daily if you want it to really make an impact. And that takes a lot of time out of people's days to make that stuff. And I feel like, it also affects your mental health to even try to do that. Um, and Instagram, more or less the same. I mean, it's like as a band that is smaller and you have this giant cold audience, like nobody knows who you are. It's the way to do it. I mean, it's those things are going to eventually, if you keep on doing it, are going to show to people who are like, oh, this sounds really cool. But it just takes a lot of drive to do that.
It does, because it's essentially like a full-time job, the social media aspect of it. Because you realize what's crazy is to think that there are people whose their full-time job is to be a social media manager for like various companies. And nowadays, like, we're all expected to be social media managers for ourselves and our projects. And you realize that constant, like, especially once you have like a page that has over 1,000 people, you realize you're keeping up with multiple conversations. You're trying to keep engaged. You want to like all the things they tell you. They're like, make sure you like everyone who follows you, like all their stuff, comment on things, interact with things. And I'm like, that's just Instagram. And then it's like, you imagine they're like, oh, you also want to do the same thing on Facebook and then on TikTok, make sure the content's slightly different. And you're like,
Right.
that's
A
a
lot
lot
of
to
different
do.
formats too, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's a time consuming thing. Part of what I'm doing right now is actually just uh, keeping a lot of posts, but not posting them yet, so that I can eventually have enough to post every day, in preparation for like upcoming releases and stuff, and keep a steady flow. The nice thing too is that you can schedule these things ahead of time,
Hmm.
and that definitely makes life a little bit easier. But yeah,
Even
takes
that could be
definitely
tough.
takes a toll on mental health for sure.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Trust me, we both know that too well. We actually, funny you say how it's so time consuming. It is because we actually just thank God, good friend of ours, Dante, decided he was going to help us out with video editing, doing all the stuff for the YouTube, all the social medias, because just like you said, it is tasking on the mental health. It's extremely hard. It's a second job that you're literally not really getting paid for, realistically. If you're trying to get a project out there, or just this show, or just your music, like you are doing it because you have a passion for it. But that in itself is stressful enough, let alone what you probably do every day for your normal job outside of the music scene and everything else. So yeah, you could not have articulated that any better, because that is straight facts. That is not even an opinion. That is a straight fact.
Yeah,
It's just like you said. It's mentally draining, and it's it's honestly toxic. It sucks to be drained and so constantly on your phone, because then you post something up, right? And I'm guilty of it. I'm John. I'm sure you're guilty of it. Same with you, Tony. I'm sure you're guilty of it as well. You post something up, and you're like, "What the heck? My last post had X amount of views, X amount of likes. What the shit is this? What do you mean? I posted at the same exact time on the same exact day next week. What the hell?" It's all a stupid algorithm, which is unfortunate. But you are right. You almost have to constantly have something going out. I hear that some of the top social media platformers are posted on TikTok 2 times a freaking day, 2 times a
Yeah.
day. And then they have a public Snapchat that they're posting stuff on, 30 posts a day. And then Instagram at most 2, but every day they have something out. And it's just like, that's for a normal person, man, that's hard. Okay.
yeah.
We are normies, man. We're normies in this world. Dare I say, we're just trying to get by, and here we are trying to, grow something collectively together. And it's a lot. So that was actually really smart, though, about how you said that you have all these things lined up for when they're ready to post, when it's time to release. That is awesome. I love that idea. Did that stress you out, though, having to do that or doing it?
Yeah, a little bit, but it's mostly just stressing me out because in the moment, like nothing's happening online, and sometimes in that case, I'm like, I hope people don't think like we're dead, But it's like we're very much alive. We're still doing things. We're just preparing. So when the time comes, we're gonna be ready. So we have so many things going on within the next couple of months. So
Oh, so the next couple months we're looking for new music, huh?
yeah, we're actually gonna shoot a music video for a new song in less than 2 weeks, and we still have another music video that we're waiting to be finished. So just those two things alone, it's a lot of content, but things for people to look forward to as far as like different fans and stuff. So
Make sure you let the boys of King listener know. We'd love to have you on when you're dropping it. That would
yeah,
be
that sounds
awesome.
great.
That would be so awesome. So, I thought about this earlier, slightly off topic, but it's more towards the beginning of, I guess, what I was wanting to know. who would you say, excuse me, who would you say were like your biggest kind of like you looked up to these guys to kind of maybe emulate your sound or like what kind of started this whole I want to be a songwriter? What was the band that just you heard and you're like, you know what, this is what it is, you know?
That's a great question. Um, well, when I was in ninth grade, I went to a performing arts school, and I just went there for drums at the time. I didn't even play guitar, but I took a music theory class, and that like basically just totally changed my view about songwriting, and everything just suddenly clicked with me. Once I took that class, I was able to hear things on the radio and stuff and realize I was like, oh, I know what that chord progression is. And I also took piano lessons when I was 5, but I hated the piano. I was reading music. All I wanted to do was play Game Boy. But when I took this theory class in my freshman year of high school, suddenly I could just play the piano like it because everything just clicked for me.
All made sense because it's
Yeah.
like it's weird because when I know nothing about music theory at all, not even the slightest bit, but I know when one of my good friends at work tried to tell me about it and he explained it all to me, especially like with guitar, piano. I almost would say it to somebody that doesn't understand it because like myself, it's almost like a math equation to how it needs to go, because if you don't do it this way, it doesn't make sense almost. Like it doesn't go with the flow. It's kind of how I took what he told me and took it in and kind of tell myself, because I would love to learn about music theory. How hard was that though when you started going through it? Because like there's a lot to know about music theory. I mean, shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a bunch I don't know. If anything, I probably just still know the basics, but it definitely was enough for me to get started, because what I do with songwriting is not like music theory is definitely relevant, but it's more of a mix of that and just, what I think sounds good. And obviously there's like so many musicians out there who don't know a thing about theory, but are amazing players or amazing songwriters or both. And so it's just a tool for me, I guess, if that makes sense.
Periphery, the guitarist Misha, I think is his name. He's a perfect example. And then I forget who the guy for Animals as Leaders is, but it was Tim Henson. I'm sorry?
Tosin Abasi?
Yeah. I believe it was him in the interview. I could be wrong, but either way, it was him, Tim Henson, and Misha from Periphery. And they're like, man, the way that you guys write music and you do these chord progressions and scale, like all this stuff, like it's insane because it fits within this and da 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 da. And Misha's like, I don't know shit about music theory. And then Tim Henson threw in a comment. He's like, I didn't even make it in Berkeley. Berkeley's a music school, right? Yeah, he's like, I didn't even make it into Berkeley. And the guy looked at him like, what? And he's like, how the hell are you making Playing God and all this stuff? So it's incredible because just that little bit to you was able to kind of jumpstart your career, in music or your attempt into it. Whatever it is, your passion, more or less. Your passion was able to jumpstart your passion. So that's awesome. So is there like a specific artist though that like really like you just just like I said, you heard and you're just like I love it.
Yeah. I mean, at that same time, I would say, I mean, I don't know if this applies to everyone, but I feel like a lot of people, what they're listening to in their teenage years is pretty formative, right? But I got introduced to a lot of like post-hardcore bands around the 2007-ish era. I was introduced to like Chiodos and like Seosin. But Seosin's probably the biggest one for sure. I just everything just kind of like I just love all the different elements that they had. Their drummer has the craziest fills ever. Their guitar riffs are just so exceptional, and I love the high soaring vocals and stuff. But that was definitely a big one for me.
I like how you said Chiodos because they remind me. I'm not gonna say that I love Chiodos, but I definitely listen to them a lot. I still, the titles of their songs kill me. It is the epitome of the metalcore. Devil Wears Prada, like stupid names, like assistant to the regional manager, asking Alexandria. I used to have a best friend, then he gave me an STD. Like, that's like one of my favorite things about Chiodos. But I'm gonna botch the song name, and I'm not even gonna attempt it. But it's one of their bigger songs. The thing I liked about Chiodos, kind of like how you said, it kind of goes slightly everywhere. It's almost like there's 4 different songs in one, but it flows so perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And like you get like you said, post-hardcore sound, like a metal sound, and then like almost I'm not gonna say electric with Chiodos, but like a real bassy, a bass hitting little groove with the same melodic backing, and then kind of back into how it started in the beginning, which I really liked, because I kind of went back and started listening to them again. What was it? Probably about 4 months ago, and I'm like, oh man, I forgot these guys even existed, man. You know?
Yeah, their first album is so raw. What they're doing with everything. I mean, some of the vocals they're not tuned very well, you know. And it's like, but at the same time, they were doing so many cool things that not a lot of bands in their scene were doing.
Yeah.
They were kind of doing a little bit of what Taking Back Sunday does, how they have a second vocalist that goes off, which is for Chiodos, that was their keyboard player who does that, but he would also meet with the vocalists to do like harmonies and stuff in between, and yeah, their guitar work too was really crazy.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that you're able to mix up so many different like subgenres into one and make it your own is incredible. I'll use an example because I know that a lot of people are fans of them, at least around me. I'm personally not. I've tried. I'm sorry if it's going to offend you, but it'd be Dance Gavin Dance. They are so like different, but they intertwine so many different subgenres into their sound. And it's very, very, very unique. You know, I respect it for what it is. I had to look it up though. The song, I did not want to butcher it. It's the Bulls make money, Bears make whatever, and something gets to the slaughterhouse. Is that what it is?
Bulls make money, bears make money, pigs get slaughtered.
Yes, that's what it is. I was listening to that song and I was like, God damn it, dude. That's such a good song. I haven't heard it in forever. Okay, so those go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say like that 2006 to 2008 was like this window in time when a lot of us were listening to like there was that variety of like you had like Warped Tour had all different kinds of music and stuff going on, and like everyone was listening to like you had so many things going on there that it's interesting to think of like how much that's impacted things now, because it's funny to see like bands that I liked back then now putting out new music, thinking like 15 16 years later from that. It is like it's interesting to think of trying to fuse those things, because I think I like the fact that with Space Weather, like your stuff is very like progressive and stuff like post prog, or like it's hard to label, and I think it's good that you don't box yourself in, because I feel like so many bands kind of will do that. Like I feel like a lot of bands will almost, and it's understandable because you want to kind of repeat your success. If bands will put out an EP and people love that EP, they're like, let's just make 10 different versions of these songs. And then they're like, let's just make 3 different versions of the same album. And then you are 5 years later, you're like doing the same thing. And then asking Alexandria does something different. And everyone's like, this sucks. So it's like, that's what happens sometimes. I'm not calling anyone out with that comment. But I'm like, people do kind of like, you'll see that. So I think it's interesting I think it's important not to box yourself in, because I think you have to balance, and it's a delicate balance of trying to balance creative success and creative endeavors with like financial success. And there is, especially with the music industry, a lot of times you have labels, they're like, this song had 100,000 streams, this song had 20,000 streams, we need more songs like this, or whatever that balance is. And it's hard because oftentimes, like, at least for a lot of YouTubers and other creators I talk to, they're like, some of my favorite songs, audiences just don't like them the same way I do. And then some songs that you think are kind of like trite or overplayed, audiences are like, this is the best. So I think that variety is necessary and everything. And that might have been not the best call.
I definitely, I agree though. I don't want to ever be
Mhm.
like all the stuff that I write that it comes out is always it's typically a reflection of which I'm sure a lot of other musicians would agree, but uh, the music that's coming out like in the future is a reflection of what I was listening to at the time, you know, what was influencing me at the time, and that's going to change with the next release too. I guess that's one of the freedoms that we have with being DIY, not being signed to a label, is that we can kind of get away with that. But at the same time, we'll always keep like a signature sound. I have always been into, you know, like music that is fun to listen to, but also has complexities that are fun for, you know, like a lot of ear candy going on, you know. Um, so, I mean, maybe my band members don't like it because they have to play it, but
That's
so
how I feel like everybody in Tool was when they finished the song. They're probably like, "Fuck, man, we should have held back on the shrooms." Man. You know, nah, I haven't lied. They're all great, great, great musicians. And you actually answered my question that I was going to ask next was, are you self-produced? Which you did answer. Now, I got to ask, how are you self-producing though? Just with everything in your home, you guys all have your own thing, or you guys all get in like a little
well,
studio?
we don't self-produce like the records that like you
Oh,
hear on
okay,
Spotify. I
okay.
mean, so but I do write everything, and we'll do pre-pro. You know, I use a Kemper for my pre-production. I am getting to a point where it is starting to sound better and better, but it's not at the level that I'm ready to, you know, release it on my own. Uh, in the future, we probably do plan to record a lot of things on our own and send them out to be mixed.
Okay.
But yeah, for the most part, I usually go up to Portland. I work with his name's Chris Crummett, and he's worked actually with Dance Kevin Dance, and also bands like Sleeping with Sirens. He did
Nice.
Issues first couple albums. He actually mixed their last one too before they stopped. And other bands like Closure Moscow. But the main reason why I even work with him is because he has such a good understanding of guitar tones, and aside from the fact that he is great at, you know, mixing and mastering records as well, but he will listen to the stuff that I've done and usually help find the best sound. So
Absolutely, and that's great, and it sounds like you have a pretty good relationship with him as well. Aside from just how he does his job, of course, you want him to do well, but it sounds like you have a good like personal kind of relationship going on with him. So that's really nice. So when you guys do go to, I guess, track the record, do you take the rest of the bandmates with you? How does that go? Do you guys all go together? Do you book it for a week and then go, or you do it old style? You only got enough money for 2 days. You're in that studio
yeah.
for 8 hours and you get after it.
So when I did the EP back in 2018, that was done by me. Just like, you know, I was completely by myself, and we did everything one at a time. For this latest record, we did some songs just with him, and those were also done completely by me. But then the other half of the record, I got some of my other band members involved, and it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys like Texas in July.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, we last July we started recording the second half of the record that is now finished, and I think less than a week before, or maybe around a week before, we're supposed to go record. We were going to Lancaster to work with Grant McFarland and Carson Slovak, and they are the people who they did Era's last record, and they did ABR's last record and stuff. And we were going to them just for drums and bass. LJ and I have worked with them in the past, and they're great at what they do. But
Wow. I did not know that they worked with Era on their the self-titled boy.
yeah,
One
and they
oh
did they
my
mixed and
God.
mastered Polaris's most recent record as well.
Nice.
Um,
Really?
mhm.
Oh man, I love Polaris. I love all those bands. Actually, that's
Yeah.
of course I figured that August Burns Red, of course, being from Lancaster, would have been with them. But wow, it's gotta be kind of cool that you guys gotta kind of, I guess, work with that specific person with these bigger bands that he's working with now. That's got to be kind of like a really cool. Yeah, well, I did it first, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it is cool. ABR actually came in while we were tracking because the Atrium Audio, which is the name of the studio in Lancaster, has they have several different recording rooms. So one of them is for Dolby Atmos sound. So that's they have a room where they'll mix records specifically for Dolby Atmos, which means you have, instead of just your left and right speaker, you have speakers all around you, above and below you. So it's more of a 3D experience. It's typically just for movies, but it's starting to come a bit into records as well. But also, well, let me backtrack a little bit. So about a week before we were supposed to go record drums and bass in Lancaster, our drummer broke his hand. And this was the first time that I wasn't doing the drums on any of Space Weather's music. So I was kind of freaking out because these songs are really hard. So they're not just something I can just pick up and go with. When I'm practicing for the studio, I'll do like 2 hours a day for drums and maybe like an hour on guitar because of the technicality of some of these things. So we went into the studio assuming that we're going to have these drums be programmed, which is a huge bummer. But when we got there, they were like, "We think we know a guy who can do it."
If you're about to tell me Matt Griner did this shit, I'm gonna flip, bro.
No, not Mac. No, Adam Gray.
Oh, okay.
From Texas in July. Because they're also from Lancaster, and it was one of those things where I had demos of everything already. I had the pre-production of the drums by themselves all set up. So they were able to send those songs to Adam. He was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can do these." And he just went right in and he did them. I mean, he was doing maybe like 4 bars, 8 bars at a time, but we got through it all, and he basically saved the day. I mean, it's crazy.
Had to layer it a lot. Like, hell, I mean, still, that's incredible though.
Yeah, I mean, when you go to record drums at a studio, typically you will. I mean, the best drummers will definitely, there are people who can just play through a song, no problems. But I think it's pretty standard to, maybe go through a section at a time, like maybe a whole verse at a time. Then
absolutely.
And since these songs, though, they were really difficult, and we were just lucky because I think Adam was probably the only person who could do that at a moment's notice. So
what a small world.
Yeah.
What a small world. That's awesome. You still in contact with the guys from over there by chance? I guess like good guy in Texas in July. Like you still talk with them and everything? Like
haven't talked to him since he's kind of just, he does his own thing. But Grant and Carson, those guys are both super cool. They're very chill dudes. The whole experience working with them is just, it's great. They're very professional, and so
that's truly incredible. I would have never thought that in a million years. What you just told me, that story. So, was it when you got into a studio for the first time ever, like a real studio, the one that you flew to in Portland? Were you not like? I'm going to say this because I'm speaking for myself, because when I first saw a studio, it was just the other day. Were you not like slightly taken aback by like, holy crap, this is a lot of stuff. This is a lot of stuff.
For sure. I mean, like back in, I would say 2011, I think that's when I first recorded with Royal Revise, and we went to Atrium Audio, but it was a completely different space then, and also it was a way smaller space. But even back then, I was taken aback just because of the amount of gear that they had. Was just, I didn't have anything even remotely close to that. I mean, like none of the guitars I had were were viable for recording, you know, at least on a professional level. But yeah, it's like going to Portland. Definitely, that was crazy because Chris has his studio in his backyard essentially, but he set it up completely the way that he wants it. You know, he has the live room, control room, and also just like a place for the band to stay, you know, while they're recording. So, and but Atrium Audio too is also just where it is now. It's incredible. It's like a community of all these different businesses and stuff, and there's like a local kitchen that makes all these different things, and so most people usually order from there. They have a giant hotel that's in the same plaza because so many different companies, people will come in there and stuff, and I mean, it's crazy.
I want to add to it, man, because I saw my. It's funny that you said the one in Oregon. It's kind of like it's in his backyard. It's just like this one was. It's literally in a shed. Okay, it's literally in a shed, and it's right down the road from my house. It's actually a good friend. He's the whole reason I actually started playing drums. His name's Caleb Harmon. Shout out to you, dog, if you're watching this. I know you watch, but so I went there. Because I'm a drummer and I have no idea how to tune my drums. I have no idea how to mic my drums. And I really want to get serious. I want to make my own stuff. I'm sick of depending on other people because everybody sucks. Nobody wants to do what I want to do. I want to, so I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to learn how to play guitar. I know how to scream. I know how to drum. I can put something together. So I went over. Dude, when I walk in this place, it is like a goddamn space shuttle. My mind's blown. I'm like, first thing I said was, how much money do you have in just your drum set? And he's like, oh, the snare's like, $2,000. These cymbals were $800, just the hi-hats. I'm like, okay. Anyways, it's just, there's just so much stuff. He's got guitars here, guitars there, microphones just out the wazoo, man. And he let me mess around, put the headphones on, jam out a little bit, and kind of tracked it a little bit and showed me how the whole operation works. And boy, let me tell you, man, he showed me some of the mixes for the albums that he's done. Oh, I cannot believe the amount of, like, for one, I knew that there's a lot of layering, but it's different when you see it like on the interface. You know what I mean? Like it is insane. And then just making like random noises, like with sampling something in your kitchen, putting a mic to it the proper way, how to angle your stand-up mics for your cymbals to hit the middle of your snare. It's just, oh my gosh, man. It was entirely different perspective. I didn't even know. And it's like, you look at, like, for example, my little setup that I have, my at-home studio. I'm like, oh, man, this is dope. Nah, bro. It doesn't hold a candle to it, man. But he taught me so many cool things about all that goes into it, man. And it was incredible. So the fact that you said maybe the first one that you ever seen was like basically in a shed in the backyard, I was like, oh, that's kind of funny because same. I just went over last week and it was awesome. It's a real experience, though. He showed me so many things. And I actually ended up tuning my whole drum kit. Never knew how to tune my drums in the 10 years that I've been playing. Tuned them up, mic'd them up. Golden. Sounds great. So it's awesome. So
yeah.
As far as like your band members go, have you had a steady lineup the entire time?
For the most part, yeah. We did lose one guitarist at some point, but other than that, we've been pretty steady, which is nice because I do think that is kind of important for like longevity of the band and dynamics and stuff, as far as, because I do want the other band members to become more involved with songwriting. And the one guitarist that has been with me since the beginning, he has like for our latest single, Silent Hex, he wrote the intro riff to that, and that was huge for this song because when he gave me that riff, I put the lead guitar on top and like it was just so natural for me to write the verse, the chorus, like it all just came one after another, but it wouldn't have existed if he didn't write that riff. So, and in songs to come too, he also wrote a couple different leads and stuff. And usually how that works is he'll write a lead or something, or I'll loop something that I'm be like, you want to try to play guitar on this? He'll mess around, and then I'll take pieces together and kind of snip it together, and then turn it into an actual riff and try to figure out what's the best way to play that. So, I mean, it's nice having, band members stick around. That's like, I want them to be more involved because they are all really good musicians. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you kind of already answered my next question. I was going to say, is there any has there been any creative differences whatsoever within, I don't know, we'll just say the last several years? Has there been any creative differences that you guys have, I don't know, maybe bickered a little bit, but then kind of found in the middle to be like, yeah, let's
I wouldn't
try
say
this.
I wouldn't say so, but that's mostly just because I kind of am in control in that aspect. But we do try different things, and I think as time goes on, we will, get to a point. Like, I want to collaborate to the point where we'll be like, well, how does this sound? Like, maybe let's try this instead. And I'm hoping with music to come into the future, especially to get my drummer involved. I mean, the best case scenario happened when he broke his hand and we got Adam Gray, but our drummer is a phenomenal drummer, so I'm hoping to hear him play some sick beats in the next one.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to have things all come together, and it's interesting to think about transitioning from it being kind of like a solo project as far as creatively to becoming collaborative, because it's interesting. Shout out Dante, who's going to be watching this to edit it. It's weird giving up that creative control. Like, a part of you sometimes when you see something, a part of you wants to be like,
yeah, at 100%.
Yeah,
it's like letting go of like a child or something. I don't know, it's like letting it grow.
Yeah, because
it's not weird though.
Yeah, it's not weird,
but it's weird at all.
It's interesting because a part of it you're like, I can see how it works that way, but here's this vision I have in my head. Because at least creatively, sometimes you're like, this is you played in your head enough, and then you hear someone else do it, and you're like, oh, that's how you think this should have sounded. But working together is really great for that. And I think, like you said, having everyone's creative voices shine through is huge. But also for that, like you said, longevity, but as far as creativity, that way it's not just all on you, because at that point that would be exhausting if it's you're doing.
It definitely has already been exhausting. And when last August is when we went to record the guitar and vocals for the second half of the album, and my guitarist, he came with me, and Devin is he's an amazing guitarist, and I had him learn. I tabbed out a bunch of riffs from different songs just for him to play, and just that alone took a huge burden off my shoulders. And Chris I was telling Chris how it's nice, and I was like it's been really chill in the studio this time around. He's like, yeah, that's what happens when you don't have to record 100% of every single thing. So
oh yeah, I bet that was a huge weight off your shoulders too. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. It's hard enough to just do your own thing in a music project, let alone everything else. Especially if you kind of lack in another area slightly, you know what I mean? You said I believe you said you started on drums, correct? Well, piano when you were 5, but then drums, right? So I'm gonna assume you're probably a much better drummer than you are a guitarist. But maybe not though. That's just me assuming. But
not anymore.
No.
Yeah, drums are hard. And I think after the last, I did record one song in July so that Adam didn't do all 5 songs. But after that, I've kind of taken a break from drumming full time just because it's easier to focus on songwriting. I am still a drummer though at heart, and I'll still write drums using Superior Drummer or something like that for pre-pro, but
Yeah, I mean it's expensive as shit too as a drummer. My gosh, just having a mid-range kit get you a nice set of cymbals and stands, you're looking at like $5,000 and just that. That's not including the drums, like just the shells. You know, a good shell set's like $3,400 for a 5-piece. It's incredible how expensive it is.
It's crazy too, though. When you're younger, you don't think that like money makes that much a difference on the
Oh, it
sound of
does.
things, and then like as you
Oh,
get older, you're like, oh my gosh, like the difference between a $300 guitar and a $3,000 guitar is like night and day. But when you're younger, you're like, you're used to what you have. Even like our show of like our first like 2 episodes, the episode with LJ, I hated how my mic sounded, so I got this mic, and Cam was like, I don't notice any different. I was like, there is a difference. When I'm like looking at the audio tracks, I'm like, there's a difference. There's less like sound, but it is like, it's interesting to think of like those little things you don't think of like, it's interesting to realize when a lot of bands will try to self-produce, like the kind of instruments you're going to play with on stage and practice with are not the same as what you'd like to record with for like that clarity.
That's a big thing with the self-producing thing. It's like, I do want to get there. And especially because once you are there, then you kind of have free reign of like, you know, you don't have to set time to go to a studio and plan. You can kind of just go along as you want to, and which is a good thing and a bad thing, right? I mean, I see bands that, you know, they do self-produce, but I think it kind of, maybe it's like the lack of a timeline because they're self-producing, and that can kind of even be harmful for a band, versus if you kind of just set something up and, you know, then prepare yourself for it, then it's going to get done.
I think that timeline is key. It's kind of like having that like time boxing things, because you'll see a lot of like Netflix had the worst trouble with it for a while, is they would just give people complete like creative control and like no timelines, no nothing. And you'd have these shows that like the first 3 episodes, you're like, that should have just been 1 hour, not 3 like 1 hour things. But when it's your time, like you're self-producing your music, you're like, no one's sitting here just like forcing us to time box any of this. So you're like, we're going to make everything a little bit too long. Like Cam and I both, the last 2 episodes and an episode with LJ, like listening to bands that it's clear like no one set a timeline for them or had like a clear vision, and it just kind of sprawls out a little bit.
Yeah.
Like there's that tightness, the focused element you need. So it can help having that like direction and stuff there. But yeah, money, I cannot imagine the money of trying to get all that stuff together to self-produce. Especially as soon as Cam described the drum set thing, I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking about one microphone being too expensive, not like a 5-piece system.
Well, at least with like, I say this like, you can get like a pretty good like microphone for kind of cheap for just vocals. You can almost kind of use any microphone, but if you want like really good crisp quality, you're gonna have to spend money. I feel like the microphone's like the cheapest thing you're gonna be able to get. That's like, you're gonna still be able to sound pretty damn good on. Everything else, like, you need to have good wood for the drums. You got to have good cymbals for it. You got to have good skins. You got to have a good snare. Then when it comes to tracking anything, you need to have a good mixer. You got to have power to it. You got to have power to those mics, because the mics don't power themselves. And some mixers don't have phantom power, which makes it literally, there's so much to it that I'm not even going to get into, because I don't know enough about it to sit here and bitch about how much it is. But it's incredible when you start getting to the big leagues of what you're doing, Tony. It's incredible the amount of money that gets dumped into it. But a quote that I think we're all taught as young men is that you got to spend money to make money, right? And that is something that I have found since to be one of the truest statements I've ever heard. That, and, you know, enjoy being young, because it just keeps moving faster, but we'll touch on that later. But anyways, so Tony, I did want to say, I feel like I'm going to get stumped here, but because I had a really good question. Okay. You said that you had the album completed, right?
That is correct.
What why do they get hold of it? Is it because of the label? Is it because of timing on your guys' end? How does that work? Because I've always kind of wondered as a fan, mediocre writer myself, what goes into like holding the album back if it's been done for so long? Why wait?
Yeah, so we just kind of want to make sure we do it right. One of the biggest mistakes that I think I have made with this band was that I released my EP and I didn't really have a plan. One of the things that, like a lot of different musicians that, have already learned it already will tell you, or people who work like with ads and marketing and stuff, is when you release something, you have to keep on talking about it like nonstop. And sometimes that is hard when you don't have things lined up content wise for it. And whenever I released the EP, I didn't have anything except for the EP. Like I had CDs and stuff. But I mean, my band had never even played a show. I didn't even have a drummer when I released my EP. And so I don't know. It's like we are taking our time with this because whenever we do, release another single and stuff, there's so many other factors at play. Like we plan to release merch at the same time. We're going to have a music video released at the same time. And we're probably also going to release, like, we're going to start doing pre-orders for the album and release the album art around the same time as well. So, yeah, I think my biggest fear is just rushing it. And then because we rush it, maybe we don't have enough content. And if we stop talking about it, that it's like we're so small right now. There's so many people that don't know we exist. And even bands that are bigger than us, they still have the same thing where there's a giant cold audience of people who can potentially be interested in your music. You just have to know how to reach them. And it also includes like, maybe running ads as well, and finding like the right like demographics and like, depending on like, people's ages, the associated bands that they like, and tinkering with those types of things too. But that's something we also want to be ready for. So
yeah, that's the hardest thing, is it falling on deaf ears within a cold audience.
Yeah.
So I fully understand that to the fullest extent. I just always thought it was so crazy. So many bands that I just listen to, they always say like, yeah, our album's done, but we gotta wait till this day. And it's like, man, how do you wait that long for something? Like, are you just as excited as fans are? When it comes to your,
I am.
You gotta be, right?
I am, but also it's like, it's just funny because the music has been around for so long that by the time it comes out, like I already am just working on new music anyways. Like it's like it's gonna be new to all of them, but it's already getting old for me. Cause
you've already got the next 3 albums planned out, baby. Come on, got them all written up. You're just waiting for somebody to change up the sound, be like, oh shit, we gotta do that. No, I'm kidding. So, okay, so what we should be expecting within the next several months, music video release. Are you gonna drop a single before a video?
So what you would want to expect in the next couple of months is a music video for the song. I think it's That Way. I'm pointing to the album
Yeah,
art.
you are. Yeah. The
Yeah.
album art. Yeah.
We're going to release a music video for that song, which was originally meant to like be out already, but we ran into some issues with finding people to edit it and whatnot. But so you can expect to hear that song, a music video for that song, and then shortly after that, we should have a music video, and we will be releasing a new single for another one. And
I'm extremely excited, and I'm going to ask you right now. You can kindly oblige if you don't want to, but I would love when it gets released that we listen to it on here with you.
Oh yeah, I would love to.
I would love to have the chance to dive into a songwriter's mind while I listen to the song with them.
I would love to. That'd be great.
Because I always have questions when I listen to songs just on this show. Any song, any single. I always want to know because for one, I'm a lyric guy. I like the lyrics and I love melody. So if I got something to hum to with everything else, but if the lyrics, I like to see how the lyrics resonate with me. I like to see what you are trying to portray throughout your lyrics, and I like to see or know, I guess, kind of where your sound stemmed from. Like what is it that I'm not going to say that you were emulating because that would be copying, but what was the route you were trying to take the sound with? What band that I know of are you kind of along the lines of? You know, like all those little things that I've never got the opportunity to do. So I would love to have you on here. I know John would be too. I'd be ecstatic. So when that gets released, please smash up my DMs and let me know because I definitely want to listen to that with you. That's going to be
Absolutely.
awesome. As long as we don't get a copyright, shot
Like,
at us.
those copyright strikes are just like, it's
God.
maddening understanding like the pattern. They're like, if you play more than 30 seconds at a time, that's not fair use. But if you play 30 seconds and you talk, like, then it's fair use. It's
I think we'll be good
Right.
because I'm totally going to want to pause probably like every 30 seconds to feel the flow. And like, I know it's going to probably kill you. You're going to be like, oh my God.
I was gonna say we tell people all the time, like on our different accounts, that they can stream our music whenever they want and stuff. Like I think that is like kind of a big deal, and just an avenue for new people to listen is people who are streaming on Twitch or like like on podcasts and stuff. Like it's always such a great avenue to bring new people in.
like
Man, it's almost like we said that a few weeks ago when I went on my rant about how record labels suck.
Yeah, because like that's the funny part is to watch because record labels you'll see them like as a band's rising, record labels will just let anyone do anything they want on YouTube with the song, and then as soon as they like hit critical mass, suddenly record labels are like, no, we're only going to let you play the song on our terms. And I'm like, do you not understand the correlation of the like creative freedom you had this whole time with letting people do whatever they wanted? Because so many people, it's like at least like TikTok and other things. It's like, yeah, you play a song, react to it or whatever, and like people listen to it. And then suddenly they get big enough that they don't need like their audience to help build it up as much. And then they're like, nope, you can't react to this song.
Yeah, you're just sitting on the sidelines getting shit on. You're like, oh man, fuck, man. This is bullshit. Just wanted to show these guys these songs.
But that organic growth is huge of like, because you want people to listen to it. Because at the end of the day, it's like, it's interesting because some people don't like that idea. They're like, oh, I don't want to like people just playing this for free or whatever. And it's like, no, how you make money is by having enough people listen to something for free that you have people who want to start paying for it. Like if you only ever like it's like news articles and things when like everything's paywalled. It's like how many people are actually paying $6.99 a week or whatever, or $6.99 a month for the New York Times? I know I'm not. I just read my 4 articles a month and then I just never visit the site again.
Yeah.
And it's like, really, in reality, you want as many eyes on your stuff as possible. Absolutely. So I like that. Like, 100%. Get that out there and stuff because it's a huge audience engagement. We saw Not Enough Space when, like, we reacted to their first song. They were, like, liking everyone's reactions and sharing everyone's reactions. And I'm like, that's how you grow, is you just have enough people of, like, you think each person shows 100 of their friends, you might have 5 people interested in listening, and like out of that, people buy stuff. So I think that's like cool. You do that.
It's like that percentage that you brought up to me that one time. Out of whatever it is you share, out of 100 people, only 5 people are gonna share that as well. It was something like that. I don't know. The way that you explained it was actually
because it's like a weird thing. You look for like the like ratios on things. Like for every like, let's say every 20 views, only one person's gonna like it, and out of that like that subset, only like 1 out of every 10 are gonna share it who liked it, or 1 out of 20. So you think like ideally that's how you reach that critical mass, is you get to the point where like it sometimes when you look at the views on Instagram, you're like 3,000 people looked at this and only a small subset liked it. But like in reality, for a good like ratio, it's anywhere from like 1 out of every 20 to 1 out of every 100. Like you'll see bands with like 1 million plays and then they have like 157,000 likes or whatever. You're like, that's just 1%. or whatever for 17,000 likes. So I think it's key getting like those people out there because you want the loyal fans, and that only comes from like huge exposure.
I wanted to ask Tony. So, with like you said, you're waiting for the album release. It's all got to line up. You got all these singles lined up with it. When you release the songs, open to the public, open for everybody, what's the plans for touring? What are the bands that you like? How does that work? I guess first off is what I'm going to ask. How does the touring section side things go? I don't know if you've done it yet. And then second off, who's a band that you would really love to like open for?
So touring is something that we do plan to do in the future. It is kind of a difficult thing to do with at least a lot of my different band members have the types of jobs where it's hard for them to get out of work. So likely I would be finding, maybe a replacement guitarist / bassist. But it's definitely something we plan to do, especially once we have this next batch of music out. I think it's like really important right now that we are focusing kind of on just trying to make new fans, grabbing the new audience that doesn't know about us, and really playing on that so that by the time we do play shows outside of the state, that we can hopefully draw in a new crowd. I don't know who I would play with. I would play with a whole bunch of bands. Oh gosh. And I mean, from a smaller, I'm sure we'll end up playing, with a band that isn't not like a band like I grew up listening to or something, right? But I don't know. That's such a hard question.
Okay, how about this? Because I know that you could. Oh, maybe not. Maybe this will be a hard one to answer too. Because if I was in your position, I wouldn't know who I'd pick either. I have definitely 4 runners. Any of the bands, unrealistic or not, who's a band that you would just love to just, be on tour with? There's got to be at least 2, no matter how big they are, right?
Right. I mean, I feel like we could probably do a pretty cool tour with Circus Survive. I mean, I feel like that is like an inspiration for us, or a band like Hail the Sun too. They're a pretty cool post-hardcore group from California, and definitely up in our alley as far as like the type of sound that we bring, and like the type of complexity in the guitars and the just amazing vocals too.
I think, to me, for you, what would be a really cool lineup based off of what you said, the flow this album's going to go, and kind of how you take the progressive sound of the metalcore guitar and everything, you clean it up. I think it'd be really cool if you kind of hit every major prog kind of sound. I mean, post-hardcore, it's not really prog, but it's more progressive than normal hardcore, right? So
Sure.
You go, and then like you get with a band like Invent Animate, and then like fucking Tool, and I mean it's outlandish as shit, but that would be like 3 totally kind of different styles of progressive sounding music.
Because Animate is, I mean, they're incredible.
Oh, I love the guitar work with those guys. Oh wow, geez, okay.
Yeah,
you already had it ready to go.
I know, it's one of our. If we mention something more than once, I like save it in the.
Wow. Okay.
Because I'm like, that album, like Without a Whisper, like that song is so good.
Heavener was an amazing album. Did you listen to that album, by the way, Tony? I guess now that we're on them.
I listened to it, I believe, one time through. I enjoyed it. I don't know why it's not played more.
I would definitely revisit that, because that you could get a lot of like little ideas. I remember my good friend Dylan Geister's actually my brother-in-law. He's in a little band around here, and I was listening to his demos, and I was like, "Hey man, it would be really cool if you added like a super cool like melodic sound on the guitar, like tapping, and then have some open chugs, because that's like a lot of what they do. Currents does it as well on the Death We Seek album that just came out 2 weeks ago, and their whole discography. But yeah, I think that would be maybe extremely out there of a chance, but that would be really cool. You bring in like 3 to maybe even 4 progressive sounding bands. because it touches on kind of like every subgenre of a progressive sound. Maybe if I'm saying that correctly, but I think that would be super neat, man. All in all, though, man, Tony, I wanted to say one more thing too. Do you mind telling us what the single is? We'll bleep it out. The viewer won't hear it.
The name of the single?
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll bleep it out. We'll bleep it out.
The name of the single is called
Subscribe to King Listener Reviews.
And so it starts out softer than most of our songs do, but the chorus is pretty heavy. The bridge is pretty heavy.
It sounds fucking heavy.
Yeah, I mean, heavy in the sense where it's like, you know, when we were working on the guitars and stuff, it's like they're definitely, you know, they're like we quad tracked at like the choruses and everything. And there's like some really complex riffs in there too, but it starts out real soft. And for the most part, I would say the vocals are, you know, there are a lot of sections that are almost kind of poppy, but it's a good track. It's one of my favorites for sure.
That sounds exciting. And when's the
amazing.
date, or what's a tentative date for dropping?
I
don't want to.
It all depends on when we release the music video.
Oh yeah.
So
are you still looking for a videographer for it?
We already have one for the new single, but we're waiting for our first video for Silent Hex, the single we released in the end of February. It's all based on when we plan to release that. Once we get it back and we know where we're gonna push it, it's kind of just, you know, everything's gonna be set in motion from there. So
interesting. That's awesome. That actually hit my question like tooth on the nail there, because like I said, we're gonna block it out for the viewer. You guys don't get to hear it, but the name's Brutal. It's Brutal Slamcore, guys. That's the vibe to get off, dude. Some real Infinite Annihilator shit. I'm not gonna lie though, the name though honestly is like badass. Like, now is it one of those songs that the chorus uses the title of the song?
No, I do mention one of the words in the song, at least in the bridge at some point, but yeah, it's like one of those songs where it's kind of a little bit about a story, but it's mostly just like a concept of a thing. But the idea of canvases came from like something that my girlfriend and I used to do. It's like these pour paint canvases and stuff, and they're real abstract in the way that you, depending on how you pour this paint onto the canvas, it's a type of thing where, like for example, you could use a red Solo cup, right? And then the different colors of paint that you want, you kind of layer them on top of each other, or maybe you do it inside the side. And depending on how you layer it in the cup and also how you pour it out onto the canvas, it makes this abstract, unique looking art every time. And it was just like, those things were like very inspiring for me for writing the song. So
I love the creative genius. The gears are always turning in your head, dude. Just that little thing of enjoyment that you get, you like were able to like put in the title track of a song. Oh my god, just trying to pick a band name when I was writing shit was like, thought that world was gonna end, dude. It was so hard. And there you are doing something you love.
I think a band name is pretty hard, to be honest. To be fair.
Okay, I'm not alone in that sense, but goodness gracious,
I think I would rather like have to name like a child than
got a list of like all these names. Nah, man.
Yeah. What sucks is when you have a good idea and you're like, this is amazing, and then you Google it and there's already like a Bandcamp or something with it. And you're like, oof, like, or they're already established because you're like, no one else thought of this cool idea. And then you see it, they're like a slightly different, like Black Mirror version of what you were thinking of doing. And you're like, oh.
Yeah, that's when you just put the Spanish letter in it instead.
Just hope to dominate them in the future.
Yeah. I gotta give you credit though, Tony, man. From the beginning of where it all kind of started with you doing everything honestly by yourself, having a vision, going after that vision, not letting the what ifs kind of distraught you from going forward and I guess pushing through that wall. That deserves some respect especially for me, I think that's an amazing thing. I love when people have a vision and they act on their vision, and they know what the possibilities could be negative, but they don't think about that because they're so set on this vision and they're going to make it work. So for that, I got to give you so much credit, as well as the musicianship that you have to carry within yourself to be able to not self-produce, but self-record all the instruments,
I
drums.
appreciate that a lot, man.
No, I'm serious, bro. Like seriously, I mean that from the bottom of my heart, because I mean, I don't think that many listeners or even fans really understand the amount of time and effort that you have to put into especially music, and especially unfortunately the music that we love is not really mainstream by any means. So already you're taking a risk at that, but it just shows character, because even though the odds are stacked high, and this is for anybody, but specifically you, like even though the odds are stacked high, you're still doing it, and that takes so much courage. And I just wish that people could respect that and understand to appreciate the character within somebody to go out and do that, because it takes balls, it takes courage. You don't know what's going to happen, but you have a vision, and I truly believe you're able to manifest anything that you believe, no matter what it is, no matter what the odds are, no matter what the chances are mathematically. If you believe that fully within yourself, it's obtainable. Anything is. Put the energy forth into the universe, you're going to get it back, bro. So I have to give you credit for that. I definitely wanted to say that. Just getting to talk to you for the last hour 20 minutes here, man. It's been phenomenal hearing from both you and LJ, your guys' side. You guys came in together. You guys are both on different paths, but still, at the end of the day, it's kind of, I always say this. It's probably the third episode I said this. LJ, he always says at one point the levee's got to break. I think it's going to break, bro. I'm super, super excited to hear this single when it comes out here in the next several months. I'm super excited to have you back on again. And I'm very happy that you were willing to come on with us.
Yeah, this has been great.
Because it's hard enough to get anybody on here, let alone people that actually write music. Shit. God. No, but honestly, man, I definitely wanted to, from the bottom of my heart, give you some appreciation and let you know that you fucking keep going at it, dude, because I know this shit's tough, but you're going to have doubters, but that should make you fucking more geared up to fucking get after it and prove everybody the fuck wrong.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that a lot. I really do. I put so much time and money into this too. So I'm hoping it pays off, but we'll see. We'll see what happens next.
Hey, at the end of the day, man, if you put your heart and soul into it, you can be nothing but happy, And that's just what I love. I just love I can tell that you have true compassion for it. I've noticed it the entire time, just hearing you talk about everything, confidence you exuberate with it. I love it, man. I love talking to artists, musicians, because I look up to guys like you. I mean, whether you view yourself as mediocre or not big, whatever it is, to me, still, that's so impressive. Just being able to do it, man. I don't know. I'm sure John feels the same way, but dude, I love getting the chance and opportunity to talk to you guys. I'm glad that you were with us for the long trek on this one. John, is there anything you'd like to close out with Tony on his interview side before we all collectively get to view these pretty fucking heavy songs?
I was like, it's going to be a big change of pace. No, I really like talking to you. I think it was interesting. One thing that stuck out to me is when you talk about that kind of nervousness before actually recording it and stuff, because then it makes it real. Whereas when it's kind of theoretical and stuff, it's easy at that point because no one can judge it, because you're this is just an idea I have. This is just a vision. Whereas it's interesting because I think that's why many people don't always follow through with things, because so many people I know, they're like, oh, I'd love to do a podcast. And I'm like, how you do a podcast is you just call Cam and you guys talk for an hour and a half, and then you just put it on the internet and stuff or you just play
3 hours.
Yeah. Or we talk forever. But it's interesting to just think of that idea of for a lot of people, there's a sense of they tell people, don't tell people your goals unless you have tangible ways that you're going to do it, because there is that endorphin release of oh, we're going to record an album and stuff. And for many people, that's enough that you don't actually go into the studio, because that's not the recording an album in the studio, I can imagine can be really long days of just recording the same thing over and over again, and like all like the actual work. So I was just impressed when you brought that up, like that idea of like kind of that brief space between like a dream and the reality of it happening can be a real scary place, because
For
you're like,
sure.
oh, like, but I do, yeah, I
It's
love what
still
you
scary
do.
too.
Oh yeah, I can imagine, because it's especially too, we didn't even touch on that, is that fear of like you've recorded an album months ago and you're still waiting to hear what people will think of it, because at this point I'm assuming it's only really close people who have gotten to listen to some
Right.
of this stuff. So at that point you're like, what are the people going to think? And especially once you have like merch and stuff lined up and a music video, it's like it's a lot on a hope and a prayer, whereas at least with kind of a podcast you're just like, we're going to put it out, see what people think and
Hmm.
stuff. Whereas this, like, you have to coordinate and triangulate everything, because otherwise, like you said, you don't want it to just be a flash in the pan. Because now with like, it's that dual-edged sword of, it's much easier to put stuff on the internet and get it out there now, but because of that, everyone's doing it. So you can be that one that like maybe a few thousand people use it as their TikTok or reel song, and then it just disappears. Whereas
Right.
you think you want that momentum of like getting more singles. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
impressive.
That's why everything's just taking so long. It's like
Yeah.
it's like we're gonna, with all the time that we've spent already, it's like, but when we do it, by the time we release it, it's gonna be a punch in the face,
Yeah.
So
I'm
Which is
excited
great.
for the black eye that I'm gonna get with it.
We're
Maybe
real
I'll get
excited.
Maybe I'll get a broken jaw or something. I don't know.
Oof.
Nonetheless, man, though, that's what you just said there, John. Honestly, I'm not gonna piggyback off of it too much, but that was like really well said. Because people, I don't know, man. People aren't like us. Nobody wants to step out of the comfort zone, but you got to do it. And whether there's a positive gain to grab with it or not, at least you did it. You can say you tried, And if you really put your heart and soul into that, whatever it is that you're doing, you got to be happy with what you did, because it goes back to the kind of the math equation that John brought up earlier. Only X amount of percentage of people out of 100 or out of 10 are going to do that said thing. So, oh man, it was so awesome getting to talk about this during the interview side with Tony. Man, it was awesome. I loved every fucking minute of this.
The
Yeah,
reactions are going to be fun.
We gotta have Tony as our mediator the whole time, man. He's just gotta come in and be like, "Hey, don't say that, man." God.
So, okay, wrapping this section up, it really was great talking to you, and we're excited to see what happens next.
Thanks.
You have closing words about it?
Too.
Yeah.